This is Matt Regier for EDL 852 with my presentation on student norms, 10 ways to help students realize their learning norms. So student norms set the standard for teaching and learning in a school building. They're positive norms that can build up behavior and build up a great school culture. And if they're followed, this is really good for a school. A negative norm, a poor norm, or just an unfulfilled norm can really poison the well in a school and lead to a negative atmosphere. So the 10 norms for student learning, as pointed out by Living to Learn, are relationships, relevance, time, timing, play, practice, choice, authenticity, challenge, and application. And I'll look at each one of those in the subsequent slides. Relationships are number one, and those are aptly put number one. This is really the basis for every other aspect of your building. If your students and your teachers have good relationships with each other, your building can run effectively. We've done some different things in our building, and some other ideas that I've had include an advisory period, a little bit like a mentoring type period where there's some conversations over mentoring, there's conversations revolving around mindfulness, there's college and career readiness conversations, anything to help those students to have another adult that they feel comfortable with in the building that they can refer to consistently. A formal mentoring program where students actually get to choose a mentor within the building, within the school staff. That might be a custodian, it might be a lunch lady, someone that they feel comfortable with, though. It might be a coach that can talk to them through some of life's more challenging decisions that maybe they don't feel comfortable talking to their parents about, or maybe they just need another resource, someone that's been to a four-year college if that's a goal that they have and their parents weren't in that track. Passion projects are a way that we can build those by forming a kind of a mentoring relationship with someone in their area of interest. Maybe they're interested in science, but their mentor is a coach. A passion project might lead them to someone that could help them in more of a career path. Activities can lead to relationships. We've done some incentivizing of activity involvement. If our students are involved in 2 or more activities, they actually get to opt out of a final. So if they're in the band and they're on the debate team or the football team, they get to opt out of one of their finals at the end of the semester. So there's some incentive for them to get involved, and in doing so, to build some relationships. We've also, as an athletic director, I've encouraged some journaling and a personal coaching component on those activity squads for coaches to do some journaling with their teams, to do some personal coaching and just some life coaching options beyond the typical, we're going to work you really hard, so you're going to be tougher. Cool Colts is another program that we have at our school where our students actually go and mentor students at the elementary school. That helps them build relationships across grade levels and with some teachers at the elementary school that they may not see as often. And then we also have a band mentoring program where our band students go and mentor our middle school students. Each of these builds relationships between students and teachers, between students and other students. You can see multiple different applications here and multiple different age levels that would be engrossed in this. Relevance is another piece that was pointed out by the video. And this is another big one for student engagement. We've taken on some alternative courses at our high school with some sports literature, a mythology course, business math, conspiracy theories, courses that really are intended to build student interest and then to pull them into some more social science content or some more math content that's still valuable for them, even though it's in a more relevant, easy to apply area. Passion projects, again, something that students are passionate about. I've got a student right now that's making a YouTube channel on how to fix his car. That's extremely relevant to him. It's something that he has used as he's fixed his car from other people, and he's really excited about being able to share that out with others. Project-based learning is a way to make things relevant for students. You have to balance the rigor and the relevance there in order to do project-based learning effectively. But if it is done effectively, that can add some relevance as students work together on a project and work to complete that successfully. And then community involvement, I think, is huge in this area. As you bring in members of the community to work with your students, or as your students go out into the community, that really increases the relevance when they see that people are doing this beyond just a school building. They're doing this in their lives, in their jobs. So those community members could be evaluators, it could be an internship that students go to do, or it could be a guest artist that comes in and maybe sings with your choir or does an art project for your school, just to show students that this is something that applies beyond the four walls of the school. Time is another aspect that is important to student norms. We use a flex mod schedule at our school, and you can see a picture of my schedule on the right side of the screen here. It's very unconventional. Our day is separated into 20-minute mods, or periods, you might say. And classes start and end at various times, depending on when those mods start and end. My day is not consistent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. You can see that it's different every day. And our student schedule looks much like this. Um, this allows us to have a lot more freedom with how we use our time. It allows our students to have a lot more freedom with how they use their time. That's both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing in that our students get some flexibility with their time. They get to choose how it's spent. It's a curse in that we have students that have flexibility with their time and sometimes get to choose how it's spent in not the best way. We've found that we have a lot of teaching to do with that, but it's a great teaching tool for teaching our students how to use their time more wisely. Project planning is another way that you can teach and use time as a teaching tool. Students defining how their time will be allotted during a project, creating a timeline, and then following that timeline. That gives the students some power over how their time is used while also holding them to a schedule that is still important in a school building. And then I think it's important in this aspect to trust and encourage teachers. Uh, Pacing is significant, and different teachers may teach certain topics at different paces. They may take a day and answer all those questions. There's a day every year in my science classroom where we kind of randomly take a day and talk about space because students have a lot of questions about space. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I don't think it's negative to learning. In fact, I think sometimes that's the day that they learn as much as any other day of the school year. So, trusting your teachers and encouraging them to answer the questions, to pace as they see appropriate, uh, and to do what they are paid to do as professionals and to teach. Timing is another big one, and it's different from time, allowing some flexibility whenever it's possible. This isn't always possible in a school building, but within a course, allowing flexibility when it's reasonable, if there's an opportunity for a flexible due date or opportunity to change the order of things, that's fine. Flexibility in course selection when students take a certain course. If that's optional, if it's not sequential, then allow the flexibility. Again, sometimes this is unfeasible, but sometimes it works, and I think we need to be open to being flexible. Another way that this is possible is a self-driven unit of study. I've experimented with this, and I don't love it all the time, but it could work in certain scenarios where students maybe have a selection of videos to watch, maybe in a flipped classroom, where they could drive themselves through the unit and choose the order of events. Another way that I think this could be helped is by reflection, maybe more by students than by the teachers. Before, during, and after a project, whether that's a large scale project like a passion project or a small scale one in a classroom, doing some reflection before, during, and after the event about how they used their time, how they might better have used their time, and if they were to do something different as far as the planning process, what that might look like. Play is another one, and this you'll see some trends here, at least in my line of thinking. I think passion projects are huge for play. Finding something that a student is curious about or that they're interested in, and then allowing them to pursue that during the school day. We have students that are really passionate about woodworking. I want them to be able to pursue that during the school day. Yes, they need the three R's: reading, writing, arithmetic. Uh, but they also need to be able to do something that they enjoy. So, what are you curious about? This could be a year-long project. It could be multiple years long if they decide to continue pursuing that, but allowing them to play in that way. An academic competition can become something like that, whether that's FCCLA, FFA, Science Olympiad, Skills USA, Best Robotics. There's a whole litany of different options there. And then a question that my principal has asked multiple times, and I don't know where he got it, but he asks occasionally, is it safe enough to try? If a student has an idea that they want to pursue and it's not unsafe, if it's safe enough to try, I think it's worth pursuing as educators. If they are interested enough in it to pursue it and to chase after it, we should be interested enough in them to allow them to do so. Practice is also significant, and really it's related to play in many ways, and I thought they did a good job of this in the video. Uh, Practice to me as a science teacher means doing that extra trial. We typically follow the traditional tried and true 3 trials rule. Sometimes we need to do that extra trial. A student might have a question about an outlier, or a student might have another question. Yeah, go ahead and do that 4th trial, do that 5th trial to see if your data is accurate. Practice this, give it another shot. Formative assessment can make a difference here. Was the content taught or was it actually learned? If the content wasn't learned, we may need to practice more or we may need to reteach. And that goes back to trusting teachers. Allow them to do what they are trained to do as professionals and teach and learn effectively. And then another thing that I've experimented with that has worked quite well for me is some topical units. So as a science teacher, I teach a unit on soap. We make soap at the end of our unit. I teach a unit on antacids. We make antacids at the end of the unit. And you might think that seems kind of a strange thing to include here with practice. It might fit better with relevance or it might fit better with play. But this ends up spiraling. And we hit different topics multiple times throughout the year as we revisit these topical units. So we might hit acids and bases 3 or 4 different times. We're practicing these content areas 3 or 4 different times as we go through the school year. That has really been effective for me in terms of practice and being able to bring some of those topics back into recall for students. Choice is another big piece for students. They need to be able to have some choice in their learning. Internships do this, certifications like CNA, CMA, welding certificates. College courses can allow them some choice. Alternative courses can allow them choice. Beyond course selections, projects, if they have some choice in a project, there's multiple different lanes for them to pursue. That can be really effective. And then mentoring, helping to guide students to choices that both interest them and benefit them, whether that's in course choices or professional choices, giving them some options as far as what they can possibly do. Authenticity is another piece that is significant. Students need to know that their learning is authentic, really that it matters. That might be in an academic competition. I think more likely for most students, that's probably in a community project or a business partnership. Those community projects can take a variety of different forms. It might be organizing the Town Fall Fest booth or something like that. It might be a community service project. It might be leading the tour or giving a presentation at a class reunion. It might be a community performance with the choir or with the band. Those business partnerships might be a job shadow. It might be an internship. It might be a mentoring scenario where maybe they shadow or they get mentored by an area mechanic or by an area banker or by an area accountant. There's lots of different possibilities here to tie this in with your community, build relationships with stakeholders, and give your students a sense that their learning and their actions matter in their community. Challenge. We want to encourage rigor in classroom teaching. Our students need to be challenged. If they're bored all day, they're not going to learn very much, and they're not going to feel like they're really being valued. This is a question that I ask my students and I ask my players. Do you feel like we are using your time wisely? A couple different ways that I think we can do that. Healthy competition, and it needs to be healthy. That's stressed here. In class, it's okay to compete a little bit as long as it's healthy and it's reasonable, whether that's in a project or just with some sort of a game that we're allowing students to compete at. Extracurricular activities challenge students, they push students, whether those are in the fine arts or athletics. And then academic competitions also allows for some of that healthy competition. And then real world problems and solutions. In class, discussing, hashing out, and teaching students how to do this effectively, things like global warming and alternative energy. things like politics, whether that's the hot button issues or the less hot button issues. Things like financial math. How do you make a living and save for retirement? Lifetime fitness and health. If you're a PE teacher or a health teacher, how can you lead students down a road of lifetime fitness and health when so much of our nation chooses obesity instead? So, challenging students to have those hard, difficult conversations as a high school student with high school teachers, I think that's really valuable for them. It lends some authenticity, it lends some relevance as they struggle with those issues in a safe place. Application. So students applying their learning beyond the four walls of the school. This might not actually go beyond the four walls of the school, but they at least need to feel like it does and that it is used by someone beyond them. A student-run business is one fairly common way that you could do this, and this might be a coffee shop, it might be a fan store of sorts, but a student-run business could do this. Projects could do this where they're applying their learning that stays within the four walls. But if you have a traditional teacher, a culminating project in a traditional classroom allows those students to apply their learning. Again, an internship is a way to do this. This has been tied into many of these different student norms, allowing students to get out of the classroom and go work and see what that learning does for them in the real world. And then a certification. We've got students that are doing CNAs, CMAs, welding certificates, machining certificates. It's really easy for them to see how their mathematics is being applied in a machining class. I had a student today with an AutoCAD drawing, and he was showing me some of the fractions and how it applied to his math class. That's a direct application of something he's doing in math to something he's probably going to do for the rest of his life. The standard correlation is attached here. Student learning norms are achieved, learning is maximized. The relevance statement, the reflection, and my citation. Thank you very much.